Hello, classroom family. This is your professor, your safekeeper, Mildred Boveda, and I am so excited to present you the second video for our class, the second week video. So we have an agenda. This is what I do when I teach. When I teach in class, and since we don't meet in person, then we have to adjust, and we're going to do it with a clipboard. But every class session, I always like to write an agenda on the board so that the students can figure out how we're doing in terms of the goals and objectives for the day. So for this video, we have an agenda. Remember I said that we're going to keep these videos short, about 8 minutes. You have plenty to see and read with the modules, so 8 minutes. And we're going to start off with old business right here. So old business. Today is Friday the 22nd. Today was the last day for you to get 2 extra credit points for taking the pilot email that I sent you. If you haven't seen the first video yet, please take your time and watch it, because this video I'm going to speak to the classroom family as if you're already familiar with the syllabus and what the expectations are. So take your time and watch it if you haven't watched it already. Now, for those of you who have, you know what I'm talking about, okay? Also, regarding the syllabus, some of you have already sent me your the errors that you've seen or discrepancies that you've seen between the online version or the electronic version that I sent you, or anything that you had questions about and I've given you extra credit. You can still get extra credit for that if you do notice some kind of discrepancy, and send me an email on Sunday evening, the same time or before the same time that your first assignments are due. Now, this is the thing. The online, some of the changes, the technology changes with the Blackboard, I have to rely on a technology person to change it for me. And sometimes it takes a while for them to get back to me. So if you have on Tuesday, yes, the next part right here, on Tuesday, I'm going to send out an email with the revised version of the syllabus that you can have as a Word document that I want you to stick to. And eventually they're going to update the Blackboard version, but that one that I'm going to email you, print that one out, keep it. That one is going to be the most accurate. On Friday, from now on, I would like to every week send a Friday video. Keep it 8 minutes, like I said. So those are 2 days. Then you need to really look for me. Tuesday nights, Wednesday mornings, you should be reading these weekly announcements. Friday nights, Saturday morning, you should watch these videos just to keep you oriented. And since I'm the one who provides the scores, you understand what I'm looking for your assignments. Okay, so about me really quickly, I am a product of Miami-Dade Public Schools. Okay, so we're all the way over here. About me. I'm a product of Miami-Dade Public Schools. My parents were born in the Dominican Republic. They had me very late in life. I was surprised. They are going to turn 80 and I'm 33 years old. Somebody else is 33 years old. Told you we have a lot in common. I think it's Monica, your classmate. So I'm 33 years old. I actually am very fortunate, even though my parents were never able to go to school. My mom wore shoes for the first time when she was 16 years old. Imagine all the shoes you've worn throughout by the time you were 16. That was the first time my mom wore shoes. Even though they weren't able to help me with homework, or they weren't able to help me because they didn't speak the language and because they just didn't have the education, they instilled the value of the opportunity. They were very clear that I needed to take advantage of the opportunities that public schools provided. And I did. I had great teachers. I'm from Carroll City. I think I already said that. I'll say it again. And so I went to Dartmouth College, which was in New Hampshire, a completely different world. New Hampshire, snow for the first time, and very great opportunity to get to know the rest of the United States. Miami is very different than the rest of the United States. And then I did a study abroad program there, where I ended up in Brazil. And in Brazil, I read a book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Blew my mind. I was like, okay, education for social change. This is for me. This is what I'm all about. And I decided to become an educator. So like many of you, I switched career paths. I was a chemistry major, pre-med, switched career paths, and I left Dartmouth, which was a huge scandal that I left Dartmouth. I was on the dean's list. I left because I wanted to get field experience in an urban community like Miami so that I could be prepared to adequately teach students. Okay, so I did. I taught for 5 years in the same neighborhood I grew up in. In fact, different schools. I didn't go to the school, but the school where I taught, my kids came to that school with me. And many of my friends that, or not, they weren't necessarily friends, but classmates that I had when I was in elementary school, their kids were going to that school too. So that was kind of interesting, and it was a great experience, and I love teaching. I'm very passionate about the profession. But I got really frustrated as a teacher with the lack of teacher voice in policymaking. And so what happened was that I pursued my master's at Harvard Graduate School of Education in Education Policy and Management. And when I was engaging in policy and I had the opportunity to work in the Department of Education in Washington, D.C. and Boston Public Schools, I also became very passionate about the research. And what I saw was that a lot of the research questions didn't seem to fit what was going on in the actual schools. As a former student of a public school and as a former teacher of a public school, I saw that there was a gap. And I was really interested and still interested in closing the research to practice gap. So, and speaking of research, some of you have engaged in one of my research projects. Thank you so much for those of you who have already earned your extra credit, 2 extra credit points. And so what does my personal experience have to do with what I want you to do for this first assignment? Well, I want you to notice that I highlighted the research, policy, and practice. And I want to take a look at this real quick. Research, policy, and practice, okay? And research would be when we talk about data, when we talk about tracking progress, when we talk about scholars who have written on certain topics, questions, inquiry, action, research. When you're reading, when you're doing this module, you are going to come across statistics and research that's been conducted. Practice is what you're going to see in the field experience. And many of you are in schools already working. That is the practice of education. We have administrators, teachers, paraprofessionals, speech pathologists, psychologists, all engaged in the practice, the actual pedagogy, the teaching and learning process. This is practice right now, what I'm doing right now, and what you're doing, the practice of teaching. And we're going to see a lot of this policy right here. Now, we are at the 7-minute mark, so I'm going to go as fast as possible because I want to stay around 8 minutes. So when we talk about policy, you're going to read a lot about policy in special education, especially in this course, okay? You need to understand that according to the Constitution, the level of education policy, we have the federal level, the state level, we have the local. So the federal is the national level, Congress, the president, federal level. State would be state constitutions that we have. Each state has a state constitution, the governor. Local would be Miami-Dade, and the school system, the school board. So according to the constitutions, it's the state and local, especially the state, that dictates, legally has the right to dictate education policy. And for a long time, you'll see that across the 50 states, education policy was very different. But when you're reading, you're going to read about IDEA, which is a federal policy. And I want you to keep this in mind. Even though constitutionally, the federal government is not responsible for necessarily responsible for education, the states are. The federal government leverages funding, money with states in order to get them to agree and do what the federal government thinks should be done in schooling. So IDEA is a funding policy. It is an act that was enacted by National Congress, our federal Congress, federal level. And the reason, and if a state decides not to follow IDEA, what they decide to do is to forfeit the money that comes with IDEA. Okay? We're going to be talking about IDEA all semester long. I want you to remember this. I'm going to repeat it in the next video, and I want you to keep this in mind as you complete these assignments and you think about all of these different laws and all of these things that you're reading about in your chapter 1 and I believe chapter 4. Those are the 2 chapters you're reading from your textbook. Think about that. Think about, wow, the federal government, we have these federal laws and these state things are going on, these local things are going on, but really the decision makings about school, how much money a school gets, what are the criterias that teachers need to meet in order to become a teacher, etc., etc. Those are decided at the state level. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. I told you a little bit about myself. So I completed all of my agenda for today. I went a little bit over. Forgive me. And I hope that you are having an amazing week. Stay in contact. Remember, flexibility does not mean you do not stay engaged. So this is a flexible format, online format, but you have to stay engaged. And I wish you the best, and we'll stay in touch. Bye bye.